Thank you so much for sharing. That was really, really interesting. I had a question about the first study you talked about, the map drawing one.
Yeah.
How did sex roles between the participants influence the interaction? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I was hoping to not have too much issues around that. There's not a way to control for that one. But I did pair women with women and men with men, which of course is not always going to do anything. But at least I didn't, it seemed that would kind of minimize some kinds of issues where you might get really different reactions, like if somebody's particularly attractive or not. Of course, it doesn't work if, you know, one person really likes the other guy, even though they're both guys or something. But they're less likely, I think, to make a big fuss about that. So.
So I was wondering about how they're, like the one you said, smile but no, don't approach. What is
the
it?
smile. I was just saying smile and nod.
Nod.
So smiling
yeah.
and
yeah. So that could be one of the reaction or the back channeling or the whatever during the interaction for this assessment. But was there also other kinds of those that are similar? Like I was thinking also like, I don't know if I'm going to describe it enough or well, but so I would say a word, but you don't understand me. So then, oh no, you would say a word or sentences, and then I would ask one very tiny portion of what you just said. But you were giving me 3 different information at the same time, and I only didn't understand one part of it. But then instead of you pointing out just that one part of it, but you would repeat the entire thing, same thing all over again, no matter how many times it takes, but with a very artificial patience tone of the voice. Like, what do you call it? And was that kind of thing happen also with the negative attitude? The native speakers who had a negative attitude.
I did not get that particular behavior. I got some other ones. Like there was one partner who particularly, for example, repeated her partner a lot. She did it even with a native speaking partner, but it was interesting to see how she did it differently with a native and a non-native partner. But with her non-native partner, she would repeat things even, like if her partner just said no in answer to a question, she'd say, no, and then follow up with another question or something like that. But I didn't see, I think in this case, I didn't see people kind of like over-explaining, essentially. I'm just made that up, so I don't know like an official term or anything, but I didn't see examples of that I can think of. It might have been more likely if I'd had the native speaker giving directions to the non-native speaker. But here it was, because it was the native speaker trying to find out from the non-native speaker, they were a little less likely to do that. I can think of one example where somebody kind of cheated, where she was using the word diagonal and her partner didn't understand it. And the native speaker used the word diagonal, her partner didn't understand it. Instead of saying, well, northeast or something like that, she just kept repeating diagonal, and then when her partner didn't understand it, she was like this, so, which was not allowed.
That was a great presentation, and I just wanted to follow up on the question about gender.
Yeah.
Just as a native speaker of English, I feel like we have a little bit of a stereotype that the incomprehensibility is gendered more in Asian men than in Asian women, right? You know, so Connie-chan or whatever, you know. So I was wondering if you found that.
This study wasn't really designed to look at that, but the ones, the broken English study where I was asking people to describe different kinds of English, and other ones where I've asked people to respond to different voices, I find that people tended to rate the men more negatively than the women. So yeah, it was kind of interesting when I asked people to just describe a non-native speaker. It'd be kind of interesting to see who they chose, like male, female, whether they were a restaurant worker or a hairdresser or a professor. Very different choices for different language backgrounds. But it was kind of interesting. I remember one student had interviewed with people where she was talking about native speakers of Russian, and she was really pushing him on it because he said a Russian accent was sexy, because he was talking about one woman in particular he could remember. And she was like, well, was it the accent or was it her? Like, what was a big burly guy, And he's like, I don't know. So yeah, I think you do get different responses. based on who people are thinking of.
I was really interested in the positive attitude and negative attitude grouping, and I was wondering if you were able to delve into that at all, or maybe do interviews or even interventions with those participants afterward to get a sense of where those attitudes came from, which might be a starting point for changing attitudes down the road.
That would be a great idea, which I didn't do. So this one, I felt the attitudes part was so much a means to an end of seeing how people did in the interaction that I didn't focus on that as much. Could have gotten much richer data. Since then, I've kind of looked more at kind of what are people's like images of non-native English, like not just do they rate it as good or bad, but kind of how do they even sort it out. So, for example, people don't necessarily think Korean English is broken. They think Chinese English is broken, which incorporates Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, and things like that. So I've been doing more research on that kind of thing, looking at the fuller picture. But I didn't do anything in part of the study. A lot of times I find that people will emphasize the difficulty they have understanding. And of course, I think it's not coincidental that, and other people have commented on this, that the folks that they get most upset about are usually their calculus